Welcome to the Black Male Impact. Today we have with us Dr. Roderick Heath, and he's the director of the Male Initiative at North Carolina Central University. And I can tell you, he doesn't only talk the talk, he walks the walk. He has been an impact, making positive impact to the males that he serves. And if you check out his work, you will know that he doesn't only tell you, he shows you by making the commitment to serving the next generation of leaders. Dr. Heath, welcome to the Black Male Impact.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me, man. It's an honor to be here. I've been watching your work as well. So it's exciting to be here tonight to talk about our passion.
Yes. So before we get into the conversation, I'll just open the floor for you to tell us, the listeners, about yourself and the work, although we're going to get into the work during the conversation, but anything that you want to share with the audience so we can get the conversation going.
All right. So I'm Dr. Roderick Heath. Even before that, I'm a young man from a small rural town in North Carolina, first generation student. I had to persevere through a lot to get here. And people hear that Dr. Heath and think, wow, he was the smartest guy in the room forever. But no, it took time. It took mental mindset. I had to recalibrate myself and lock back in. So I made some mistakes growing up. I came to North Carolina Central as a 22-year-old freshman after dropping out of college twice. Wow. And so one day it hit me. It's like, it's time to make a change. I wasn't doing nothing. I was sleeping on grandma's couch. And so I moved to Durham, North Carolina. And that was my life changed. North Carolina Central gave me an opportunity. And for me, that's where my life changed. And the work that I do, I promise the higher being, my God, I say, if you give me another chance to get me in another room, I'm going to dedicate myself to helping other young men who may be lost, who are trying to find their way. And so for me, currently, I'm the director of the Men's Achievement Center at North Carolina Central University, which is a 4-year program. We follow young men from their freshman to their senior year. And every year we bring in a new 40 to 50 freshmen, and we just keep the cycle going. And so right now we're on cohort 14. The program has been around since 2009. We've helped over 1,000 plus young men graduate and do great things, helping them go to grad school. My goal is to help them plan their life. We see the show The First 48, right? And we see these young men getting locked up and all that. So I flipped it and said the first 48, college is 48 months. If you break it down, we're going to break it down in 12-month cycles. So you got 12 months to figure this thing out, kind of like the show. And with the first 48, it says that if the detective doesn't crack the case within those 48 hours, the lessen's the time that they'll solve the case. So I tell them to look at that from an educational point. You got 12 months. If you don't really crack that code, you're going to be a graduate with a degree, but you still haven't figured out what you need to do in your life. And it may happen, but the more you play around, the less likely it is for you to get on track. And so we have 160 young men in the program, and we have 287 young men total with our outside programs, our Latino Male Initiative, our international group that we started. And recently we started working with women. So we just inducted 120 of those young women as well. So we're working on the family model, the village. And so that's a little bit about me.
Man, I love it. I love the perspective on the 48 hours. You're breaking it down and take it by sectors. So it gives them an easier bite of what they should accomplish. But also, as you said, it helps them to develop like a goal or a vision, or to know why they're doing what they're doing. So when they leave that space, they have a better chance of living more on purpose. So I really love that perspective. Also, I've taken in the 48 hour. But I love the analogy you use with the students. So I'm going to get into the questions. And I know, man, the work that you're doing fall right in line with my first question to you. What is the mindset that it takes to make a positive impact?
Well, for me, younger on, I struggle with this, right? You look at the outside world, the distractions. But if you want to have that positive mindset and just have positive impact, you have to internalize what you want in life, right? And there's going to be pains, there's going to be setbacks, and there's going to be barriers. But to have an have a positive impact, You have to take those struggles and you have to look at them and make them weapons against what society says you can't be, right? So here I said, growing up in a single parent home. Okay, positive impact is me becoming a father, being at PTA meetings, being at meetings with other young men and stepping in the gap when their father may not be around. That's how you create a positive impact. Even though my father wasn't there, I use my impact to impact other young men and say, son, I may not be your father, but I'm going to be here. I'm going to take that phone call when you need to talk about relationships. And when you flunk in a class, how we can sit down and discuss how we can get you to the finish line. So that's been an impact, even though it's not my biological child, I'm still being there and giving them guidance. And so mindset is this, the mind is one of the powerful tools that you have in your body because it can make or break your life, your day. But if you feed positive into you, I tell my young men, when you get up in the morning, you look in the mirror and say, I'm gonna be better than I was yesterday. And so every day, if you start telling yourself that I'm better, I may have failed yesterday. Maybe I didn't go to class yesterday, but I'm gonna be better today. I'm going to all my classes today. And so by me instilling that into them, I'm like a voice in their head. I wonder what Dr. Heath would think if I don't get up and go to this class today. And so that's the positive impact. I'm in their head, and I'm like that when you have those two on your shoulder.
Mhm.
But with Dr. Heath like this, I'm out at a party with my guys. What would Dr. Heath think? So I hold these young men accountable. I think that's what it takes to have positive impact, holding yourself accountable that you're gonna do greater and better things with your life.
I really love that. And yes, sometimes we have to stand in the gap for others, but that also to develop that perspective. It's all about what we feed ourselves, knowing that, as you said, we have to become our best self so we can be there for others. But the mindset that just listening to you that I see as valuable for all of us is to cultivate the need to help others despite what's happening around us. And I think that will help us to help make a positive impact. So I'm going to go into the next question, and it's close to what you shared earlier. So my question to you, my next question, what advice do you have for the men listening on how they can play a role in creating positive change?
Well, I'll say this. As men, we carry a lot of barriers. We carry a lot of luggage. We carry a lot of responsibility. And we've been taught to be strong and don't let your emotions take over you. But any man that's listening to this, if you want to create positive change, everything that I've accomplished in my life over the last 10 years, I wrote it down.
Wow.
It's biblical. Write it clear, make it plain. Talk
Yes.
about your struggles. Talk about the things you want to do. And you write these things down and they will transpire in your life. So, men, you have to create what you want. This world is big. We know there's struggles out here, but you have to have goals like today, I'm going to do this. Just like if you want to read a book. A lot of people don't like to read, but if you say, I'm going to read 3 pages a night, eventually you're going to read that book. So, you have to set yourself up and have a plan. I know the world gets busy, but you have to take time to relax and make time for yourself. So positive change takes you to sometimes sit in silence
Yeah.
and think about what I want in life. So when I get real boggled down, I shut the world out. I cut my phone off. I dive into what I want, my plans, my goals, and I'll read my notes. Have I done this goal that I said I was going to accomplish? Nope. Let me rewrite it and say this is my next plan of action. I think what men we've learned how to balance our life, and women they do it well. When you ever seen women, they go on girls trips. They go out. Men can sit under a tree in the sun and laugh and joke, but we never take a sabbatical. It was a personal time for yourself. So I'll say positive change is you looking inside you and making changes in your life. Look at your flaws. It's kind of do a SWOT analysis on your life. Do your strengths, your weaknesses, your obstacles, and things that you can change. And every 6 months, I try to do the SWOT analysis on my life. What am I doing good? Am I spending enough time with my wife? Am I spending enough time with my child? Right? Am I giving these new students all that I have? My threats? Am I too engaged that I forget about myself and I'm not taking personal time? So, men, take a SWOT analysis of your life. And it's okay to tell your wife, today, I'm cutting the phone off. I just need me a me day. If that's you going to play golf, if that's you going to get with your friend and y'all go out and have dinner and just talk about men stuff that you want to talk about, we have to take personal time. And I promise you, that creates positive change, right? Telling your child that you love them, right? My father never told me that. But every morning before my son goes to school, we pray. I said, what are you going to be today? A leader. What are you not going to be? A follower. I say, leaders lead. He said, yes, sir. And I asked him, how was your day going? Was you a leader today? Yes, this happened today. So I'm creating positive change. I'm re-engaging him every day, every day. And so, men, you got to take your life. You only get one life.
That's right.
And only you can control how you want your life to go. You can make mistakes, but that's okay. Take those pains and those failures and turn them to triumph. And that's how you create positive change.
That to unpack that may take another few minutes, but you share some really, really valid points there from not keep our emotions to ourselves, but understand ourselves from treating the people that our life as important. And that's because we can't just focus on outside. We have to focus on where our immediate environment if we're thinking about change.
Because you can't work with young men if you're not healthy. Like if you fighting and smiling and dealing with your own stuff, you're being fake. Because now you're telling these young men, work on this. You need to go to counseling. But you get ate up inside. You're not doing the task that you're telling them to do. That's not right. So if you're not healthy, you're not being real to what we call real. You live in a fallacy world. You're really hurting yourself because you're not taking care of yourself mentally. You really adding on to the problem because people know, this is Dr. Heath, you okay today? If I'm having a not so great day, they can see it because I'm full of joy. And I say, you know what, guys, you're right. I'm not having a good day. I'm about to shut this office down for an hour. I'm going to walk across campus and have myself a personal sabbatical to see what's bothering me, what's triggering me today. Then let's come back, let's talk. And so I have to be transparent with these young men, and they respect it, and they'll give you their worst, their hurts, their pain, because they say, wow, Dr. Heath, he go through some stuff too. He is normal. Yes, I'm a human being just like you. I'm a man just like you. We all have our good and bad days, but guess what? I'm gonna get up every day and I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna be better than I was yesterday.
That's really profound right there. I'm maybe the opposite. I'll be walking around not smiling, so people
Yeah.
they get used to not see me smiling and stuff like that. So, but they
Yeah.
always say I need to do. But you sharing, just being vulnerable, is important. It makes it easier for those you serve because they want to see you as human beings.
Mhm.
And sometimes you forget about that, and sometimes you may wonder why the people around you may not open to you. So that in itself is a message to me because sometimes I go and just act as if I'm Superman, which that's not how we serve well. We have to show that vulnerability at times. So I really appreciate it. I know the listeners do appreciate that as men. It's important that we show that vulnerability, especially if we're in spaces where we are serving others, because that's part of making a positive impact.
Sure,
And
yes, sir.
yes, sir. So I really appreciate you sharing that point. It's well received, and I hope the listeners are listening. But my next question that ties close to what you have shared, but I know you can go deeper into it. Now, how can we as Black men help to change the narrative?
I think as Black men, we have to hold each other accountable. Example, if you have a good friend, I have a good friend, right? And I'm being transparent, I'm an open book. He had an outside child, but he wasn't spending time with that child. And I said, if I'm still his friend and supporting him, I'm just as guilty. So I need to call him out on that. Like, brother, you have a responsibility now. You made a mistake. It's not that child's fault. They didn't ask to be here. But as a man, if I'm cheering you on, still supporting you, I'm just as guilty. So we have, as Black men, we have to hold each other accountable. If you see a man stepping out on his wife, not taking care of his kids, we have to hold him accountable in our community. And we can't fall into the narratives, oh, that's just what men do. No, brother, that ain't what we do. You have to change the narrative. And so my guys, I hold them accountable. I tell them I'm gonna love you when you're doing right, and I'm gonna call you out when you're doing wrong. And it's all out of love, because if I continue to let you go on with those bad behaviors, I'm just as guilty. And so the narrative says Black men are not this. But if Black men lock down, find your education. I'm not even talking about higher ed. I say college is not for everybody, but education is. Change the narrative. Brother, if you could get out here every weekend and knuckle around, you mean to tell me you can't lock yourself in to get you a trade so it can better your life? Brother, if your child needs you at that game or needs you at PTA, you call that job and say, you know what? My child needs me today. I'll be back tomorrow. The narrative is being engaged because they're saying that Black men are absent. So we got to be in the classroom. We got to be in the family. We got to be in the church. Whatever you have, we just have to be present. And that's how we change the narrative. I talk to young men all the time, and this young man changed me. He said, I love what y'all do, but just be honest. If you say you're going to do something, just do it. If you say you're going to come and pick me up, come pick me up. That's how you change the narrative. Being responsible, being engaged, and not letting these other young men down, right? We all have time. I have this project that I'm working on. It's called 31 to 1, right? So in this project, I'm finding 31 men from different backgrounds, some doctors, lawyers, janitors, pastors, 9 to 5, just regular guys. And we're going to find one young man. And I'm telling them, all you have is an hour and a half out the month to spend with this young man, right? So this young man is going to get 31 different types of men in his life. Think about how powerful that is. He's going to get the guy that like to work in the yard. He's going to get the guy that's into books. He's going to get the pastor. He's going to get the lawyer. And so he has 31 images that he can look at, all positive. And I'm telling these guys, you only have an hour and a half out the month. You may be on the 1st of the month. I may be on the 26th of the month. So we got 30 days. That's all I want you to give, an hour and a half out of 30 days. And that's how we change the narrative. Because this young man is going to take something from him. He's going to take something from the lawyer. He's going to take something for the janitorial guy. Just because he's janitorial, he might be a brilliant guy, right? So I'm giving them 31 variables of what manhood is. They don't look the same. Yeah, your story is different from mine. So that's how we change the narrative, man, and stop being distracted, right? This media, this stuff that they pushing on us, you got to take, I call it getting out the matrix. You got to take time to like, analyze things, be critical thinkers. That's how we change the narrative, man. Be there for our families, man. And I'm not saying black men are deadbeats. That's not what I'm saying. But the narrative says we're not there. But we got to show them. That's why I post positive images with my son, because one thing I knew that did, and the other day he showed me, he said, Dad, my wife called me. She said, your son said he was at school Googling you today. I was like, Googling me? And what happened, man, he was Googling me. He said, Dad, I didn't know you did this, you did that. Wow. And I looked at his computer last night. He saved me as a screensaver for one of the images that he found on the computer, right? So that's how you change the narrative. It's like, I didn't set a bar so high. He's only 9. So he's like, oh, my daddy is this. And I'm his superhero, like you said, Superman. Be that superhero for your family. That's how we change the narrative. And lastly, I'll say, get back in the community, man. Like, I know they say these younger guys, man, they're a little rough. They still kids, man. I work in alternative schools. They're like, you ready for these guys? I say, yes, I'm ready. Because I'm not going to go in and try to be a fixer. I'm going to go in and listen to them first. And when I start listening to them, they just start pouring it out. And they calling me back. I said, I ain't do nothing different. All I went in and not try to solve and fix their problem. I'm going to listen first, and I'm going to teach them how they can change the narrative in their life. Young man, you doing this every day. What if you did this? You want a job? You don't want to go to college? Here, I found these different trades at the local community college. I can help you. Let's set up a Zoom. I'll walk you through the process. That's how I'm changing the narrative, man, giving a little bit of my time and attention.
Man, that is so important. And I really love the idea of having different people sharing their perspective, because each sector you are in, you have different experiences. And sometimes the experiences before you get to that sector help to define who you are. And so to get them to hear from different people will help them. And as you said, man, your son look you up. So you've been not only an example for those people outside, your son seeing you being the example and being there. So that is really powerful.
Man, that warmed my soul so much. You don't understand, like brought tears to my eyes. I'm like, he saved me at his screensaver, because he used to have LeBron James and Steph Curry. You know how the kids do. He had his daddy on there. And this is a computer he has at school. And some boys in that school may not have that daddy that they can save as a screensaver. So yeah, to let him know that he's looking at me, that's like, wow, I'm changing the narrative.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And that's powerful. And us just being there is really, really, really important. So this question, it's more a personal question to you. What or who has influenced you or inspired you to pursue the path that you're on? Who influenced or inspire you?
Well, I look at it, I have a couple, right?
Yes.
My grandfather, he passed away in March. He lived to be 92, right?
My condolences, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you, man. And so He was a quiet man. He didn't really say much. I played sports. He didn't come to the game because he was a provider. He had to take care of a lot of kids that wasn't here. My mom, they did their own thing, but he stood up and said, these are my grandkids, right? And so he taught me little things, how to be a provider, how to take care of my grandmother. My grandmother never went without. I seen him, he was a farmer, right? And so he planted cabbage and cucumbers, and he would just give it away to the community. I'm like, what about us? But he said something one day, I remember it. He said, you have to plant seeds. And when you plant seeds, things will grow from that. And he said, this ground doesn't belong to me. This food doesn't belong to me. It was a blessing that I'm able to give this out to the community. And so for me, I try to be seeds and plant seeds in people because I can help them grow as long as the seed is planted, right? So when I'm dealing with young men or families and mothers, if I'm planting seeds and giving them good information and I'm fertilizing that seed and pouring into them, I can see the growth in them. And then what's going to happen, like my grandfather said, it's not my knowledge, it's not my land. They're going to go and plant seeds into other people. And that's how you keep the narrative going. And so it's this African proverb. It says, a real man plant trees for shade they should never sit in, right? So some of these young men, I'm planting seeds and they're going to go out and be fathers and grandfathers. I may not get to see all that, but I planted those trees, right? For that shade that I'm never going to sit. And so the next generation is going to get it. And that's my legacy. As long as I'm planting trees for other generations to come and grow. And so my grandfather was a quiet, humble man. Dropped out of high school early because that time, that's how it was. But he never let me down. Did I have the best clothes and the best shoes? But he provided. He gave me enough, right? I never went without. He came home to my grandmother. He showed me what it took to be a man and to take care of their family, right? And so for him, I'm forever grateful because he showed me that you have to be able to give and plant seeds, and so that everybody else has something. You can't have this world to yourself. If you got knowledge, share it, right? Like guys will be saying, "Can you tell me how to help build a program?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can help you, man. I'm only one part of the world. The world is big. So if I said, no, you got to pay me for this knowledge, I'm doing a disservice. My God put me here for a reason. I got to be this vessel. So if I'm being tight with the information, I'm not being an influence.
Yeah.
So I'll just give all the glory to my grandfather for showing me the way and being that man that didn't walk away from his responsibilities.
Man, that's good. Having good people in our life is important to show us so we can take on a path and have examples. But I will say, listeners, what Dr. Heath said about sharing his knowledge is true. Before this man know who Richard Cross is, I called him, I emailed him, and we were there talking, and he was sharing everything that he's doing. So he doesn't only tell you, he actually be the example. So there are things that we can't save the world, but we may save some people that save more people. So that's the type of person he's, and he's really committed to his work, and he's doing a lot. As he's an example, as he said, of his grandfather that helped more people, or people that just extended people in the community. And that's what we have to do sometime. Our effort can't just be there.
It's all about effort. I would see my grandfather plant a plant, take a piece of the plant, give it to somebody in a wet napkin, and say, go put this in soil. They'll come back and say, hey, Mr. Heath, my plant has gotten this big. You get what I'm saying? He didn't give his whole plant away. He took a stem off the plant, told him how to replant it, and then look, they have a plant grown. It didn't cost him nothing because the plant didn't belong to him. This is Earth's greatest gift. So it doesn't belong to me. My responsibility is to give it and watch it flourish somewhere else. You know what I mean? So that's how I see it.
Yes, yes. Man, that is great reminder to us and to all the listeners out there that we can't keep everything. We can't even keep anything. Because at some point, this ain't going to belong to any of us. So we have to help as many people. And I think that's where the magic is, and the gift is, and the realness is in the people that we help along the way.
And I want to say this. Look, I'm not saying let people use you. That's not what I'm saying.
Yes, yes.
But I'm saying if you have a gift, everybody has a special talent.
Yeah.
And this talent was given to you at birth. But if you don't share your talent with the world, who knows your talent?
Yeah.
And so black men, we're some talented people. We come from slavery, we come from civil rights, we come from plowing fields and feeding families that wasn't even ours. We're some resilient people. And so black men, we got to get back and show the world that we're resilient. We've been through a lot and we're still here. And so I think we've hit to the point where we've been like, feel like imposters some now. Like they need us at the table. Like these inventions, some of your great great grandfathers invented this. They might not have the rights to it or it doesn't belong to your family, but without us at the table, it wouldn't have happened.
That's right. That's right. And maybe they have us somewhere to the side creating those ideas. But you're right. There's so much in us, and sometimes we forget about the greatness that we came from. It's great to remind us today that greatness is in our DNA, and we need to accept that. And but let's keep going to the next question. What is your perspective on the current climate of Black men in society today?
My current, I think there's two levels to this thing, and I'm gonna break it down to you. You have our trending black men that's following whatever the media says, right? And you can even break it down to our young men. I had an incident on campus today. Young men got into some mischievous stuff where it involved marijuana, right? And I asked the young man, I said, "Why did you do it?" He said, "I just wanted that adrenaline rush. I hadn't been around that type of environment in a while, and I wanted that feeling again." I said, "You wanted that feeling again." But I couldn't judge the young man because they're pushing this propaganda, they're pushing this drill music, they're pushing this "don't love your brother." If you hear the average rap song now, it's all about shooting and killing, no messages involved, right?
Wow.
And then our older guys, they separate us because the older guys are saying, "Nah, I don't want to deal with them. I'm just going to raise my family and do the best I can." And so the space we are in as black men, we don't have trust. He's the supervisor. Oh, he's the boss. He thinks, no, he's the boss. Okay, he's the supervisor. But instead of going out and chit chatting about him, say, "Sir, how did you become the supervisor of this space? Can you help me? Can you teach me? I might not be the supervisor here, but with my next transition, I can get some nuggets from you." But we've lost trust, and we're crabs in the bucket. We're going, "I need to get mine." But I think right now, currently, we don't have a space that we trust each other and we believe that we're here to help each other because everybody says, if you listen to the young generation, they say ops. I'm like, your opposition, like you don't even have nothing to have a op. You're a college student, like you don't even have anything. And I hear older guys like, "Man, I don't trust dudes. I don't trust black men." I think this message out here, what we talked about earlier, the message is out here that we're not upholding the standard. There's some good men out here, but we have to get back to meeting up, talking about life, talking to some of these older men that's in their 70s and 80s that have knowledge that's been here before, but we didn't even go visit the older guys anymore. Like, they just an old man. This older guy has a lot of information that probably can save you from going down the road. So currently, right now, we have this space where we're trying to get educated, but some of the guys are still trying to hold on to their own ways, and they haven't really released some of that trauma and those issues in their life. So we're in a twilight zone of where we want to be as a society, as a black man. You have some black men that are really trying, and we get tired. Brothers like me and you, we see it, we see the issues, and it gets tiring. We're like, we can't be the only one who sees this, y'all. We need y'all to take a step back and look at yourself and say, am I a part of the problem? What am I bringing to solve this problem? And I think it's a state of emergency for us. We're in a space now that even at North Carolina Central, the ratio is about 73% women.
Wow.
And so it's like, where are our men? We know some of them in prison, some of them just working, and some of them are in the streets. And I'm talking about all ages. You see guys in their 50s and 60s still hanging at corner stores. So we got to figure out what lane do we want to get in, right? And lastly, I'll say this. One of the biggest arguments in the world throughout history for black men is W.E. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, right? Washington said, "Brothers, you got to own something, get you a trade, do this." The boys are like, go get your college education, whatever. We have to look at our men and say, okay, which track do you want to go on? They both going to be lucrative if you do the right things. If the college is not for you, how can we put you in a trade space CDL driver, become a plumber. A plumber came to my house about a month ago. He was here 30 minutes. The bill was $800 in 30 minutes. I said, man, imagine you do 6 30-minute things a day at $800, right?
Wow.
So we have to stop. We fighting them like, what does this look like? So we have to sit down and have a meeting amongst men and say, what do we want to do? Can you be my mentor? Everybody needs a mentor.
Yeah.
I feel like as men, we've lost the trust in the conversation piece, what makes us great. Back in the day, we would sit down and really discuss problems and not argue and fight because other men would call you out like you wrong. But y'all two need to get together, figure this out, and let's get this problem solved and move on.
Man, that's a whole lot to unpack, but is valid and needed to share when it comes to where we are in society. And still, as you mentioned, we still have the crab in the barrel mentality, which we have to move away from it and be able to uplift each other and support each other and come together and realize the importance of the work. And also, what you said is important. We have to realize that every one of us will not become or go to college. There are trades. And I like that reminder where you share those two powerful Black men that was before us that provide a shoulder for us today. So, that's a great reminder and hope us as men realize what we need to do as we go forward in changing the narrative or just make progress. So the next generation have a better foundation to stand on. So I'm just going to go into my next question. What change do you, and you almost said some of this, you almost answered this question, but I'm still going to ask it. What change do you want to see in general amongst Black men?
I want Black men to start believing in themselves again, right? I see a lot of broken men, right, is giving up. I see the happiness. I see a lot of men who are just alive and not living, right? I want to see us really get our joy back. I think somewhere we lost it. We know there's systematic things in the world that's causing us to have these issues. But once we lean on each other, if there's a brother in your circle who's having financial issues, as a team of brothers, you say, hey, this month, fellas, everybody throw in $100. We're going to pay his mortgage payment. So he can take that money that he would use on his mortgage payment to get caught up on something, take his family on a vacation, right? Because we all may blow 50, 60, $100 within a month. And if you got a good, strong circle, that man can appreciate it. Say he needs time with his wife. He's breaking down. They're having marital issues. Let's hold the finances down this month and say, hey man, fly your wife out the country and y'all go reset and relax and come back. I think the pressures of failing for us is more detrimental than a lot of different races because oftentimes we don't have anybody to fall back on. So if this job lets me go, how am I gonna look at my wife and say, I don't have the money to pay the bills this month? Because you asked that woman's father to let him marry his daughter, and you told him you're gonna take care of her forever, right? I think Black men, we got to feel our joy. And I think that over COVID, the killings that you see every day, young men getting locked up, we've lost hope. And really, can you get to your promised land of what this world owes you? And I say the world owes you. This world does owe you. This is a big world. Go out and get your piece of the pie. But until we find our joy, you're gonna be moving in this world just waking up, and you're not really living life. So I'm challenging all you brothers on this call. And I hope that someone is listening. That itch that you have inside of you, if you said, man, I want to start me a business, start saving your money, go do that. Even if the business fails, it's okay because you put everything in line. You showed yourself, one, that you can be disciplined. Two, you can operate and follow your goals. And three, you're still alive and you can start over and live another day. I've had several businesses, a lot of prosperous, and some didn't work out. Was I disappointed? Yes. But did I give up? No, because I said, you know what? There's some people in my lineage didn't even have this opportunity. They had to ask, could they use the bathroom? So who am I to give up because I failed? Failure is a part of life, fellas. And if you're scared to fail, you're gonna never make it. Failure is there, but when you fail, you gotta examine, okay, I didn't do this right. Maybe I didn't find a mentor or another Black man who's in the business to ask him some questions. So I have to take this one to the chin and look at my family and say, you know what? I failed, but guess what? I'm getting back up tomorrow. My wife knows. She said, when you gonna? I said, look, I got one life to live. I did a lot of failures in my life. I did a lot of wrongs. But until God takes me from this earth, I'm trying any and everything that I put my mind to it. So, fellas, find passion, find love, lead with love, and everything else will fall in place.
Man, that is powerful right there. I'm not going to expound on what you just shared because that was solid. Although all the points you shared was solid, but I really want to ask this question. I know you've mentioned your grandfather and stuff like that, but I want to ask you this question. What was a pivotal moment in
Mm.
your life?
As I introduced myself earlier, I said I was a first generation student. I graduated high school with a 1.9 GPA. I was a football jock, so I played sports. You know, the teachers would keep me on the field because I was good, right? They never really taught me about the process of studying. My grandparents were older, so they raised me, and my mom and dad was doing their thing. So I really didn't have a lot of guidance, right? And so I went to college and I dropped out. I was working in the factory, right? And so one night I was at a local nightclub. I was almost giving up. I'm like, man, forget the college thing. It is what it is. And there was a fight in the club, and the guy pulled a gun out, raised the gun up, pulled the trigger. The gun jammed several times. And so they was throwing me out the club. I had another friend that I graduated with. He was continuing his football dream. He was playing JUCO football in Cali in LA. He was home for the Christmas break. And I didn't even know he was coming to that club. So they was throwing me out. He grabbed me. He said, Roderick, you're gonna be dead or you're gonna be in jail. He said, man, I just transferred to North Carolina Central University. Man, you need to come back to school. So I wake up that next morning from a hangover. I'm laying in my grandma. I'm staying with my grandparents then, 22 years old. I'm looking at the ceiling. And I was like, last night you could have lost your life, man. And I had already been to college, so I knew what college looked like a little bit. And it was pretty fun. You know, it was a lot of parties and education. And the ladies were there, and there was people from all around the world. I woke up that next day. I went to the public library and I rented the SAT for Dummies. And back then, you had this big white old computer. So every time I would get off work, I would go stick that disc in the computer and I would study the SAT. And finally, I set the date to go take the SAT. And I took the SAT. I got the points that I needed. And I called North Carolina Central every day. And that lady said, Mr. Heath, come on, you accept it. So I had a car and everything. I gave that car up. I called the insurance. I called the finance company. I said, y'all can have this car. I'm going back to college. Knowing that my credit was going to get damaged and all that, like I said, I wanted more. I didn't care about the credit. I said, I can get my credit back one day. And I came back to North Carolina Central, where they said I can be accepted. I had 2 bags of clothes and 1 pair of shoes. Never been to Durham in my life. And I drove to North Carolina Central University. 22-year-old freshman standing in the dorm. But I knew, I said, I want more. I got to college, got engaged, and that was my pivotal point in my life that I knew I made the right decision. Now that I look back at that decision, I don't even know where that car at. My credit is A1. So I'm like, what if I would have said, no, I got a car payment, I can't go back. But I knew when my life wasn't taken, there was some purpose for me. And so now, like I said earlier, I told God, I said, if you give me another chance, I'm gonna dedicate my life to helping other men who are going through the storm. So that was my storm. And so here I am working at North Carolina Central now, running one of the biggest programs on campus for Black men. But I almost didn't make it there. So my purpose is here, fella. So I said, you got to look at your life and you got to pivot. I'm doing a presentation tomorrow. It's about pivoting in life, and I'm comparing it to spades. Because spades is a game that you have to pivot, right? You might not have no spades. You might not have this, but how do you pivot in life and take the hand that you was dealt and play to win? And so I had to play to win. And I got there, and I'm one of the most known alumni to ever come through North Carolina Central. Not on no bragging stuff, because I put my head down and I focused on what I wanted out of life. And here I am today, fellas. I wrote my goals, I made them plain. And so me coming to North Carolina Central changed my life. It saved me. That's why I love Durham, North Carolina to this day, because that's the first time I seen Black lawyers, doctors, fire chiefs. I'm like, whoa, this is a Black. I didn't even know about Black Wall Street till I got there. So I said, oh, this is where I need to be. And I left one time and I came right back. And so that was my pivotal point, man. Just almost losing my life to being Dr. Heath today.
Man, that is profound. That's a story that you could listen to over and over. So I know the impact that may have on, not may, will have on the young men that you're serving. As you said, man, you just fall right into your purpose. Those experiences not helps you not only to tell the guys, what you know from an educational or for our book standpoint, but your own life experience sometimes are more powerful or pivotal for them to see beyond their own circumstances. So God was preparing you. He have to let you get that to that point to let you
Yeah.
see so you can tap into your own purpose to save others.
I had to hit rock bottom. Everybody has their own rock bottom. Rock
Yes,
bottom
yes.
is look different from everybody, but you have a knowledge like I'm at my low. Now let me climb back up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'm going to ask this question. This is also a personal question. What life lesson you learned late that you believe is important and can benefit this current generation?
I tell my young men all the time, you get 24 hours in a day like everybody else. What you do with your time, what you feed in your mind is what's going to come out. So if you have a group of guys that all they want to say, hey man, we about to go smoke and do this, and you stop doing your work, you're not investing in your time, negative is going to come out of that. And so I tell this generation is that you got to feed yourself. You got to take time to, I ask young men, what are you going to major in? I'm going to be a business owner. What kind of business owner? Young man, there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there's businesses. When you go into businesses, you see who's the manager? Sir, can I have 5 minutes of your time? You feeding that. You feeding yourself. It's a lot of people would love to give you this knowledge, but the average young man come in stores and not looking to the part or, just you have to open up your mind and ask people for help. So this generation, what I didn't learn, I never asked for help because I felt like I didn't have nobody to help me, but my help was all the way around me. So when I got to North Carolina Central, I started learning getting mentors and finding professors who really cared about me, who saw great things in me. And I started asking them for help. Like, can you tell me how to do this? I don't know how to do it. Come to my office, son. This is how we get it done. I'm gonna turn you on to somebody else. You go ask them the same question. So I think this generation needs to ask for help. And we say, well, they got help, they got technology, they got LinkedIn, they got Instagram. They're just looking at images, guys. They're not really taking this in and really breaking it down for what it really is. So these young generations, and you have to be a man that can stand on your own. If your friend's doing something, you say, man, that ain't what I do. And if they mad at you, they're not your friends. So generations, no matter what the trends say, no matter say that you need to do this, you need to look this way, you need to talk this way. Well, you can tell what the new trend is with this new generation. If the social media, the powers that be push a certain shoe or a certain clothing, you can go to any college campus
Yep.
and it's gonna be on the campus, right?
Yep.
But you'll find some guys that don't fit the mold. They dress up every day. I'm like, why you so dressed up? Oh, this is what I do, man. I don't do that. That's what they do. I'm not a follower. So find yourself, tap in, learn something, find your true passion, and what you feed yourself will come out in your heart, in your mouth, and in your actions.
You all heard that. You're not here to be a follower, or we're not here to be a follower. Sometimes we have to take the lead and don't let what's going on around us that's not beneficial to us. And as you have heard earlier, there are a lot of things that stack against us. So we can't afford to be followers out here, especially following things that's not going to help us to make progress. But before I get to my last question, I'm going to ask this question. Where can the listeners find you and support your work? Because you're doing an incredible job, and everyone that's doing an incredible job or just doing their work needs support. So where can the listeners support you?
Well, right now, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. Just type in Dr. Roderick Heath. Share a lot of my images, footage, my quotes. Google me at North Carolina Central University at nccu.edu. I'm currently working on a show that we're trying to release in the next month or so. And this show is really about the memoirs of young Black males. And so I'm going to have these young men telling their story or what it looks like for them as a Black man in their age. And lastly, I'll say that I just started my own company called the Higher Education Black Male Collective. And this is how you have to Google that. And this program is taking a different approach to how we work with young men. And so I'm trying to start other Black male chapters in high schools, community college, 4-year schools. But we're going to be one unit. So if you go back into history, right, there was a green book. And that green book could show you how you could travel all the way across the United States, what restaurants were good to visit, where you could get gas, where you was accepted at. So I'm taking that green book approach for Black men and finding out who is doing what in what area. So when you travel to Texas, where all the Black-owned restaurants are, the Black chess players, where can I go to get entertainment with like-minded people like myself? And this thing is going to be mentoring. It's going to be a lot of summits. It's going to be a lot of educational stuff, really working on finance. I think as Black men, we have to get back to where's the dollar at? And I'm not saying you have to be rich, but start accounting for your money because you have kids that you need to leave something to. And so this new project is engaging, it's empowering, and it's teaching Black men financial wealth and how we can be more supportive to each other. And so yeah, just look me up like that on those sites, and you can find me, man. And my email is Roderick Heath, the number one at nccu.edu. If you ever need some conversation, I'm a certified life strategy coach. And so I meet with people to help them strategize their life. And like I said, I'm still strategizing on mine. I'm not like I'm the end all be all, but what I can say is I've disciplined myself and I've learned how to chase goals and how to make actions come to fruition. And if you're looking for that type of help, I will be more than likely to help you if you call and tell me what you need.
Okay, listeners, you heard that. I'm also going to put it somewhere in the comment area where you can contact Dr. Heath. And again, as I said, he's doing an incredible job and serving especially the young men, which sometimes need more guidance than anyone else. So it's an important work as we go forward. So my final question to you is, what impact do you want to have on the world?
My impact on the world is there's a saying, what did you do between the dash? The day you was born and the day that you died. And for me, my legacy is, as I said earlier, to continue to plant trees for shade I may never sit in. And to break that down is like, I want to be known as this selfless guy that was knowledgeable and was able to give the knowledge back to the people. So sometimes guys like us, we're gonna get ridiculed. We got to go through the fire. But I'm gonna go through the fire. I may be burned. I may be scuffed when I come out, and I might have to go through the powers that be and get ridiculed. But it's okay because I know that if I go through it, I'm setting a path for you to come through that path, and I'm knocking down those doors. If you look at MLK, Malcolm X, you look at Harriet Tubman, look at all these people that had to go through the fire. God gives these gifts to certain people that can handle that. And I'm willing to stand up there with that armor and say, hey, I'm going to take this fight on. And when I leave this world, I created a bunch of soldiers. And when I say soldiers, I'm not taking it from a war sense. I'm talking about soldiers that are ready to fight for their community, that's ready to stand up for their kids, that's ready to tackle this education, that's ready to find everything that they need in life to be successful. And they're ready to go get their other brothers and show them the same thing. And so for me, my legacy is all about who did I help? So when I reach that pearly gate or whatever you believe in as a higher power, I want to sit before God and say, I gave it my all and I left it all there. And my son could pick it up and he could pass it on to his son. His son. I may not get to see it, but I planted the trees. So I'm good to go.
Yes, listeners, Dr. Heath, man, thank you very much for an engaging conversation. And I appreciate you coming here to sharing the Black male impact. This was incredible. There was a lot of information and points and nuggets and insights and perspective. So really appreciate it, Dr. Heath.
Man, thank you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Get this message out. I think you're the vessel, man. So keep bringing these brothers on. I know the next brother gonna have another perspective, but it's gonna be all good information as well. So keep pushing it. And when the barriers come, keep going because they're gonna come. When you start doing great things, that's when things happen. And so
Yeah.
that's part of the universe. So, brother, support you need.
Yes.
Just give me a call. You're now a friend, man. We friends,
I appreciate it, man.
Man.
And we need that. We need this support because you're right. When you start doing well, you're going to have those oppositions. But you said one thing, God already put it in us. And because he put it in us, we now have to believe that we have the strength. Wherever we weak, we just got to ask God for a little bit more strength. But we have our brothers right now to help strengthen us as we go on this journey. So my brother, my friend, man, I appreciate you and the work and the support. Again, man, so thank you.
Thank you, brother. This conversation warmed my heart today, man. You made me really dig in and think about some other things that I've been dealing with. So, brother, thank you again. You got my number. Listeners, keep listening. Tell a friend to tell a friend
Yes.
to watch this show, man. And let's get this thing worldwide. All right, brother.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right.